there were just times I was battered, just battered, where, and I can't do this. I can't do this anymore. I'm going to stop. But of course, then the physical withdrawals are kicked in. And I can't hold my phone. I can't brush my teeth. I can't text no one. Can't do this. Can't do that. Where's my lag? I got to get more of that down my throat.
Guys, excuse me, if you're watching on YouTube, excuse the wet hair. If you're not watching on YouTube, then get watching on YouTube. Stop just listening to your podcast. Start having a visual experience as well. The wet hair is because if you're anywhere near the UK or Europe or Isle of Man where I am, then we are still in the grips of an amazing heat wave. Not complaining at all. I love it for my job. But I've just spent the morning and the afternoon in the paddling pool with the kids and the wife. So, it's a tough life, but someone's got to do it. But what I will say is today's guest, Mr. Dan Sheridan, Mrs. Sheridan's husband on TikTok, Instagram. I think it's just Dan Sheridan on Instagram. He has been, you find out in the podcast. So Dan is a successful liver transplant patient, and when he had his transplant a couple of years ago, he had a hernia caused from post-op. So he's been in hospital since I think Wednesday, Thursday last week. He's getting out today, which is Monday when this has been dropped. So he's been in hospital for the majority of this kind of little mini heat wave that we've had. So please just pause this podcast, pick up your phone or whatever device you've got, get on TikTok, find him if you're not following him on Instagram, and send him a little, well wishes. He's doing well. He's been in a lot of pain. I'm gonna once I finish editing this, I'm gonna send him a little message as well. But send him some love, please, guys, because Dan is an absolute trooper. He has gone through the mills with what society calls a social lubricant, a pastime, a thing that just everyone does. Nah, you know what? It caused Dan to lose some of the what people would describe as the best years of his life, even though he's living the best years of his life now because he's got his amazing wife Claire and all of that. But yeah, it stole so much from him, from an early age, 19, he has been in the depths of a catastrophic alcoholic fueled just misery. From the outset, people would go, "Oh, it's Big Dan, it's Big Dan." Big Dan, Stella in a straight glass. He's the fun and games, he's the snooker lad. He's this, he's that. Inside, he was just struggling. He was absolutely beside himself with hurt and pain, and he didn't know a way out of it. Well, he did. He tried to find a way out of it twice, and thankfully for him and for us, those two attempts didn't work on his life. So he's still with us. He did have a hard time trying to get his liver transplant because they weren't fully. The thing with this disease is they think that we've done this to ourselves, and although we have, it's not our fault. We didn't ask to be addicted to a highly addictive drug that's socially accepted. So, he was finding it difficult. They were saying, "Oh, you're telling us all the right things, but we don't really believe you," and blah, blah, blah. And, on day 1111, he got a phone call on a Saturday that changed everything. So, this is a tough episode to listen to, guys. Thank you so much, Dan, for coming on. Take care when listening, because there are some tough things to hear in here. But I think everybody needs to hear this. Anybody that's struggling, but also anyone that's drinking, anyone that thinks it's not going to affect them, you need to listen to this episode. And if you think once you've listened to this that anyone that will benefit from listening to this episode, then please forward it on to them. Cheers, guys. Listen for the similarities and not the differences. See you at the end. Dan, how are you, mate?
I'm good, Jimmy. How you doing, buddy? Good to see you.
I'm good. Good to see you too, mate. And I'm loving the hairdo, man. That's
I had to get it done,
fresh.
especially. I had a date with a very roguish Scottish man tonight. So,
Well, exactly, mate. You know, I've brushed put a brush through mine. So yeah. And as I said earlier, this is what I do, so that people will go, I can't see that. I'm only listening on Spotify or Apple. Get over to YouTube, guys. Dan, it's such a pleasure to have you on, mate. I feel like I've listened to you on other podcasts, and we chat on TikTok and Instagram and that. So I feel like I know you already, mate. So it's such a pleasure to have you on. So thank you.
I'm honoured. I'm honoured you asked me, Jimmy. I'm honoured you asked me. I truly am, mate.
Without a doubt, mate. Without a doubt. Let me start by asking you, what's the biggest misconception people have about you, Dan?
Oh, fucking hell. I think the biggest misconception is he couldn't have been that miserable. Mm-hmm. That's what I get because of the avatar that was created, Jimmy. For years of, the big Dan, and I've said this before, renting a personality to create an identity. Mm-hmm. And that's how, and people struggle with the fact that I was hiding so much. And it's can't be. He's got to be lying. He's got to be lying. And then when you eventually get through to those people, some people I can't be bothered with because they've already made their mind up with that. But the people that have that misconception of me, when you actually talk to them and they hear it, there's quite a special moment. Yeah, it's quite a special sort of. I think my mum said it best. She went, "Hindsight's a wonderful thing, isn't it?" And I thought, wow, if that's how we cross that bridge, then I'm happy with that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and that totally makes sense. And that's the thing from hearing your story and then, like knowing you as a person and, you're bubbly and you're full of life and all of that. But then to hear what you've gone through is just like, it's madness. And I wasn't obviously, liver transplantee, but I had some pretty dark times, and that's the thing. Like, people that see me now, like my wife's never known me when I was a drinker, and
that's what you and I got in common, buddy.
We've got that in common. They've never known that person, and it's like when she hears my story and she's like, "Oh my God, like what you went through and what you did to yourself and what like the difference in my personality." Obviously, I was the same person, but it changes us. So let's go back, Dan. Like, what was your childhood like? What was your childhood like? Where did you grow up? And
so I grew up in a village called Harwell in Oxfordshire, and mum and dad. My dad was my hero, and how do I word this? I'm not going to turn around and say I had a terrible upbringing. I had a terrible childhood or anything like that. Okay, there were moments that dictated how I ended up. There's no two ways about that. But from an aspect of your usual playing football, swimming, tennis, playing snooker, watching my dad play this crazy game in Oxfordshire called Aunt Sally. Google that one, Jimmy. I'll send you some videos of that. But there was always something amiss, and there was always something that I just never felt right. I never felt included, and I never felt a lot of the place where I belonged. The safest place, and I said this, the safest and most comfortable I ever felt myself was when we used to go to a place, Butlins, and it was a place called Spring Harvest. Mm-hmm. And that was where it was a Christian thing once every year that we went to. And I just felt that was the only place I was ever safe. I was ever truly myself. And I didn't have to be anything other than Dan because I wasn't judged by anyone. But the sort of the childhood growing up before that, because I'm so tall, that there was an element of being picked on. There was an element of there's the tall lad. Yeah. He's got to be good at basketball. All the shit that comes with being a tall lad. You know what I mean? So,
I bet he's handy. I'll try because I'm 6'3". All the time. What are you?
I'm 6'6".
6'6". So yeah, you're a tall lad. Do you know what I mean? And it's like I was always the one that people could see above my mates and all that. So like I would always be the one that they would pick on. Do you know what I mean? I'm not a fighter. I got in a few scrapes. But yeah, it's that you get singled out, don't you?
And the irony with that is that the lads that would pick on me, the older lads, they were the ones that needed me when I was 14 to go to the off-licence forum for the school discos. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? It's sort of like, it kind of goes full circle. I mean, growing up, Jimmy, there is an irony here. At one point in the village we were living in Harwell, mum and dad were asked to caretake the pub, one of the pubs that was there called The Crown.
Yeah.
And my first ever steps were taken in the pub. My first walk is there. So whether or not there was something written in the stars there for how I ended up, who God only knows. But yeah, so that's a little freaky for you.
Total irony there, isn't it? But
Yeah.
you know, like as you say, it's not written in the stars, and it's just a coincidence. But we take a lot from that, and I bet in your drinking days you were like, "Oh yeah, I took my first steps in a pub." It's a bravado thing, isn't it?
Massive, and I think that with everything that goes on, growing up as a kid, and I look back now, and because of how different the world is now, my youngest boy's autistic, and I think that when I talk to Connor and I see through his eyes how the world is, I know I'm not one of these people that goes, I'm undiagnosed ADHD and all that, because you've got to get a doctor to get that. Yeah. But I do know there's some work there that needs to be looked at. There are traits within me, and I look back at how I was as a kid back then. There was a nervous ego. There was a nervous cockiness. I was shit with money. I was never sort of either I was either on time or very fucking late. I was always, if there was going to be anyone that would make an ass of himself, it would be me. Yeah. But at the same time, I wouldn't want to be, because I didn't want to be seen. Many different traits. I look back now and go, that could have been something different back then.
Yeah. Well, there's conflict there, isn't there? It's like you're trying to do something, but then something's pulling you the other way, and then when you're trying to do the other thing, it's like, well, no, you're back here, and it's like, there's conflict there, definitely, yeah. And so, when did you have your first drink, and how did that make you feel? What age?
I can't remember. I remember being around alcohol. I remember being around it in the growing up where we were. Yeah. There was 5 pubs and a club. There was the game that my dad played. So I was around it all the time. Mm-hmm. But I'd probably snick my first ever sip of my dad's bitter off a tape. Yeah. But the first time I remember getting K-lined was off of Merry Down cider and Exhibition cider, and that was not fun. And you go, how was that not? Because I remember just feeling like shit. But of course, what did I do? I couldn't just go out and have the half a bottle of Exhibition America. I had to go and get 2 and 2, and find my dad. My dad found me staggering across the road at 8 o'clock at night, and what's going on here? And that was I remember that. I remember the punishment is that my mum and dad caught me with fags in my pocket. So my dad took me in the garage the next day, and he tried to make me smoke all the fags that were there, right? Yeah. And as he walked out into the garage, I tried nicking one of the fag ends to try and get rid of it, to smoke another one. But I didn't extinguish it properly, so I put it in my pocket. Dad come out, my fucking pocket's on fire. So yeah, I don't. The signs were there. It was never going to end well.
Well, I get that. I did. I mean, my parents never did that kind of, punishment. But I don't understand the kind of logic behind that.
I don't think that was my dad's logic. I think there was a lot of my mum talking there.
Yeah, but there was loads of that going on. It was like, if you catch your kids with cigarettes, like, make them smoke them all, and that'll put them off. I guess it's like, if your dog or your cat does, business in the floor, you rub their nose in it. I mean, who does that? It's obviously not going to work, And I think so. What did he try and make you drink loads of more cider?
No. So Dad was someone, although Dad would sort of like, it'd be homebrew going in the garage, but Dad was one of he raised a lot of money for Dreams Come True. He was a fantastic chess player, worked his backside off. He always made sure if he wasn't working, he had another job and another job. And he was just sort of like, he'd go to the pub for like the last orders, couple of beers. But if he was out with his friends, he'd have fun. Yeah. But he was never someone that was problematic with it. But the circle of friends that the family had, they were always, they were in the pub, they were here, there, but they were what I would classify as, they're the normal people. Yeah, they're the people that was fun for them. And I think that there was very much of a taboo area around like socialising with drinking, which perhaps made it more enticing to me later down the years. But even at the age of like 16, for example, if I was being served in the pub, I would never stand there with one pint. It just wouldn't happen. Yeah. There would always be more. So the dopamine receptor was broken from fucking day one.
Yeah. I think because my dad's the same. He's had times in his life when he's probably drank too much, but he's had that old school mentality. Like, my dad would never miss a day of work. you know, if he's got the flu or anything like that, he always just is man up and all that. Do you know what I mean? It's that old school mentality. So he would never even tell you if he got hungover. He's in his 80s now and he still likes a drink. And I'm sure there must be some days where he's feeling absolutely shocking. But
I mean, dad died of cancer in 2015, and he was as fit as a fiddle. You know, run the Honolulu Marathon, run the London Marathon 2, 3, 4 times, run the Aberdeen Marathon. He was as fit as a fiddle. And when that come around and it got him, I just remember looking at that thinking, well, if that can take a hold of him, then it really don't matter what I do, does it? Because the genetics, you know, the writing's on the wall sort of thing.
And how old were you at that point?
Sorry, I was in my 30s. So I'm at 47. Dad's been dead since 2015. So yeah, 11 years ago. So I was 36.
So right in the thick of it,
massively in the thick of it. But he weren't him passing away.
No. But
him passing away was not the catalyst for me going on to what happened. I'm not going to turn around and blame Dad's death on that. It was already happening. It was happening long before then.
Of course, I mean 33. It's like right in the thick of it. I mean, so obviously you didn't really enjoy that first time on the K line, and then did you? When do you think that you kind of started doing it? Was it social or was it on your own? What were your years like?
So at the age of, like I said, at the age of between 16 and 18, I was just a typical sort of lad, you know, and it was, you know, it was a norm. You'd meet up with a lad, you'd do this, you'd do that, you'd have a few beers, but I never enjoyed going out clubbing. That was never my. I used to go raving, ironically, I used to go to all that sort of thing when I was younger. But the clubbing aspect of going out and standing around and spending, you know, half an hour waiting for 4 bottles of Budweiser, whatever the poison was back in, it never appealed to me. Yeah. It never appealed to me. And my friends, I'd always go and buy pints. Why are you drinking the bottles? I said, because it's more cost effective. That's how my brain worked back then. You know, I was like, no, I'm fucking buying that shit. And so between the age of 16 and 18, and I got a job when I was just before I turned 18, and I was started doing care work. And at that point, I now realise anyone at that age shouldn't be doing that job. They're far too young. I was earning too much money. So at the age of 18, I was earning like 20 grand a year. So you can imagine back then, 20,000, it's a lot of money. Had no responsibility, but something happened, and this is when I became a dad at the age of 19. Right. And from that moment, the woman who's the mother of my eldest boy, she's 16 years older than me. That should never, us two hooking up should never have happened. Yeah. I thought I was getting with the manager, so I'd probably be getting a promotion at some point. I got a better gift, I got my son, but that was the logic. That's how I was thinking. Yeah. And then, I'm pregnant. Right. And
were you two even together, or was it just a couple of times? Or?
The way in which the other one tells that story is that we were, and that was never the case. Right? I'm 19. I haven't got a clue who I am. Yeah. I'm going to be a dad. I've watched my dad with my stepbrother, who are just like mates. I think I don't want that relationship with my boy, but at the same time, I'm still trying to figure out who I am.
Of course.
You know, and it just everything sort of that I could have got wrong, I did, from just thinking I could throw money at the situation. That wasn't being a dad. Trying to find a job that paid more, trying to find something. And I look back now and I was just so depressed. Not the fact that Jamie was here. Mm-hmm. I didn't have a clue who I was, Jimmy. I did not have a fucking clue who I was.
You're still a kid, and what is it they say?
I was a baby.
The prefrontal cortex isn't until you're 25, 26. So, yeah. And do you know what? Like, I'm not going to badmouth your the mother of your first child, but like, you were 19, she's 16 years older than you. There's a little bit of advantage being taken off there, isn't there?
I think that we can do that, or you can look at the 19-year-old that was being very cocky.
Of course. I mean, I was in that situation as well. Not as much as yours, but I did have older women relationships, and it was like, whoa, like you feel like the man about town, don't you? Yeah.
I remember we went one day, and the boy's mum turned up, and one of Dad's mates turned around and go, "Oh, look, Dan's mum's here." I think that kind of that was just fucking that kind of cemented the what could go wrong has gone wrong sort of thing. She's brought Jamie up, and she's always had a roof over his head, and whatever goes on there, that's Jamie's a great kid, and we got a great relationship. But back then, at the age of 19, I weren't ready. I wasn't ready, and I'm still. trying to figure out the world. I was looking at my friends who got off to Australia. They're out going away for 6 months. They're doing this. They're at uni. When I left school at 6, I hated school with a passion. Yeah. I hated it. And that's one thing that my mum's always turned around and said that she thinks she got wrong, because I asked to leave school so many times. I have to change school. I asked to move schools and it just never happened. So, and I was ill when my GCSEs came around. So I was in hospital with Crohn's disease when that happened. So I left school, went straight to the working world, and then the first thing that happens in the working world is become a dad. So it's kind of like, wow, there you go. Now you got to try and navigate who you are. Still not knowing who I am, Jimmy. Yeah. And and the next few years weren't the greatest. They weren't, buddy.
So I mean, tell us those next few years. So are you still working at that same place?
No. So I left there, and I kind of flitted between jobs. I was flitting between
trying to make more money, and
because I got bored. I used to get bored in certain places. I used to get bored with people listening to the same bullshit from people all the time, and thinking, what can I work around the social? Although there wasn't necessarily what can I do that's going to be able to keep everyone sweet, trying to keep everyone happy, make sure this is all right, make sure that's all right. And then it got to about the age of 22, and I'd had enough, and I'd had enough, and nothing was going right. No one liked me. This, I believe that anyone that was my friend was my enemy. No one liked me. They wanted me for what they could get out of me, and everyone would be better off if I wasn't here. And so I decided that the world would be better off without me being here. And the next day, I'm woken up in the first time it come around, woken up in an ICU, and I can hear them. They've obviously called me mum and dad. And there I am with drips and everything hanging out of me, with a rage and anger that I was still here. And then having to fucking justify what I'd done in front of a shrink and in front of my mum and my dad. And my dad was absolutely mortified. Like, how has it come to this, son? Yeah. And at the time, they were asking questions, and my mum was trying to justify everything that had gone on.
And was there any warning signs from their point of view? Were you still living at home at that point? Or
I've been living at home, but sort of living here and there. I'd sort of like been on the floor, making sure Jamie was all right, and I'd been here, and I just had enough. And I was working. I was a security manager at this time, and there was a guy that I used to work with called Hassan, and at the time he was my best mate, and he followed us in the ambulance, because I called the ambulance up because I thought, wow, I don't want. Did I call the ambulance? I can't remember. Anyway, I woke up, the ambulance was called, and Hassan called the ambulance. Sorry, and I woken up, and he told me the next day, he said, "You just dropped down. You just stopped breathing down." He said, "That was it." He said, "You just went blue. You stopped breathing. They had to cut your clothes off you." And so not only was I fucking angry when I woke up that I was still here, I was angry that they cut my favourite jeans as well. Yeah. And it's stupid, isn't it? And listening to what happened, I remember.
And what was it? Pills or
pills, and a shitload of wine and a shitload of anything that was just laying around. It didn't matter what it was. It was, if it had an alcohol percentage, it had something that could do damage to me. I was taking it.
And this is at 22.
22. Yeah. And then there was. So then the psych team sort of come after and bring Jimmy. In the short time you know me, I'm sure you can figure I can talk my way out of anything. Yeah. So they've come round, and I've gone, no, I didn't mean to do it, and if I meant to do it, my mate wouldn't have known that I was in trouble, and it was just one of them things, and I never once said I'm crying out for help, never once did I say that. So it was just a snap judgment thing, and she was pushing me, but I managed to sort of get around that, and she saw me about a 2 weeks time, and of course I've walked in there all fucking GQ smooth, looking all right, and so I've realised the error of my mistake and all that sort of thing. And at that time, it was more self-referral. So I had to be the one to make sure to go back to the appointment. I never did. No, I never went back to another appointment, because I'm like, well, I've bullshitted you enough there. You know as much about me as what I want you to know about, and I'll go on. And the depression stayed there. And then there was another time.
So how were you after that? Sorry to interject, but how were you?
No, I weren't good. I didn't tell it
off that it hadn't worked, but like
angry, Jimmy. I was
but were you like? I don't know if this is the right word, were you stable enough to not attempt it, or were you just thinking, I'm just biding my time, I'm going to do that? Or were you kind of like, no, I'm not going to do that just yet? Or
I
what was
think
your thought process?
after what had happened, because of the physical, how fucking rough I felt right after. So I had the mental anguish, I had the physical anguish. You've obviously been chucked charcoal and everything down your throats, and then you shitting black crap everywhere, and you've got all this going on, and I felt shit. And I remember thinking, if you're going to do it again, make sure you do it properly, because I don't want to feel like this.
Yeah.
And when I had that thought, and I'm starting to converse with these voices in my head. And something's not right here, Dan. There's something's not right. You're having this conversation, but again, I never acted on it, never did anything with it. And then the drinking sort of was going on in the background, Jimmy, and I'm not noticing that the two are going hand in hand, And then I'm playing a lot of snooker. We formed a good bond with. So this is the happiest time I'd had sort of in the adult life, was the snooker lads that I had.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a couple of lads there, John Hawkes and Zorro, and a couple of others who. Top lads that I would always never hurt. I would always they were just, John Hawkins especially is just one of the nicest people you could ever wish to meet, and that got taken, and during that time it was going all right. I'd started my new job at Sainsbury's as a manager, and everything had started. I'd met my youngest boy's mum, and things had started to sort of, the depression was always there.
Mm-hmm.
The not fitting in, the not being connected altogether. I was connected in a way, but I was still a big bravado fucking persona I was putting on.
Of course, and I think sometimes, and I hate to say this, but we find like a sweet spot. Like, although there's the depression, and I was massively depressed, and obviously the alcohol compounds that and it makes it worse, but we can sometimes find, and it doesn't last long, but there's this like level, or there's this even keel, or this sweet spot where we know that the drinking is making us feel all right for that little point of time, and we've got this group around us, and we call them friends or whatever, but there's this little sweet spot, and it doesn't last, but when you're in it and you think, yeah, I'm okay, I'm not as bad as I was, do you know what I mean? Because this drink is making us feel happy, even though it's definitely not, and it's making us worse. But there is that little level.
I changed my shift patterns, so I could pretty much do what I wanted to do. So I used to work every weekend. I used to work Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, so I could have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesdays off, because Mondays was practice night and Wednesday was league night.
Yeah.
So
you feel like you've got a purpose, you're doing this. Yeah.
And I'm the big manager, I'm the next big thing, and I'm earning all the money and all this shit, right? I'm not interested in any of that. No. I couldn't give a fuck. I couldn't care, because I knew that on a Monday, I could finish work at 3 o'clock Monday morning, Sunday night, Monday morning. I could have a few beers playing pool with one of the lads before they finished, or I'd be and then Monday would come. I'd wake up at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, be around at Hawks House for 6:30, on the snooker table by 7 o'clock. That's me done till 11 o'clock, where we're getting 2 kebabs and double cheeseburger, and we're going home. And then I don't give a fuck about Tuesday, because I can just get drunk all day long, and then Wednesday and that's it, and then Thursday I'm back work. So that's how it went for a long time, and it just went wrong. The work got wrong. I fell out with them.
I mean, how long did you stay in that kind of, I want to call it a stagnant pattern of drinking, not really, I mean, were you still with your youngest mum at that point? Was that in the back burner?
So if you look at about 2005, if we say 2005, right, between 2005 and 2009, I was existing for how do I word this so it doesn't sound too blasé and too like he's fucking making a line up here, because I know it sounds it, doesn't it? I was in that, we'll call it a purple patch. In that purple patch there, drinking was problematic, but it wasn't problematic because it wasn't causing problems to others.
Yeah, you're keeping your job. You were not destroying people's lives around you. You were just in a rut, but the alcohol was problematic. Yeah, and then, you know what, Dan? There's a lot of people out there, lot of people out there that are in exactly that point where it's not going to get any better unless you do it. It's only going to get worse if you continue drinking. Yeah,
and that, my friend, is exactly what fucking happened. because and you couldn't have picked a better spot to put that in, because it got to 2009, and the area manager did not fucking like me at all. And he caught me on a blind side one day, and he just said, "You earn too much money. You got too many people that like you." I'm like, "Fucking like me? No one likes me. I just get on with me." And he said, "I'm going to take your job away from you." I thought nothing more of it. I just thought he was, I thought he's just one of them.
Yeah.
Anyway, fuck me. A week and a half later, I am just, any shit thing that could happen is coming my way. And it got too much. And I said, I can't be dealing with this. Yeah. So I went to the doctors, and of course at the time the doctors will just give you, how much time do you want off? All right, give me 30 days. And in 30 days, I got nothing but just got bollocks. And then I decided, I got offered a job with the other big company, the other one, Tesco, and that was the worst move I ever made. It was the worst move I ever made. And during this time, when I went over there, something happened. I always thought that the home life was all right where I was. I didn't think that there was anything going on there. And one day we come back from somewhere. I got my oldest boys come over for the day. He's staying the night. Sorry. We're downstairs and having a laugh and everything. And I had to go, and we went into bed. I had to go and email. It was either returned. It was sent back in the day when returns was first. I had to go and email something anyway. And I said, "Can I borrow a laptop?" Go open the laptop. And I said, "I just need to use your email to ping this thing over." "Yeah, not a problem." And I opened up her email, and there was naked photos being sent to another bloke. And this was just after I'd kind of left Sainsbury's to go, and I wasn't happy at Tesco, and I was earning too much. The job was just not for me. I could do it with my eyes shut. It just didn't interest me. And then that happens. And so all of that shit that's happened in 2002, the depression, not wanting to be here, which I'd been suppressing with the purple patch that we just spoke about, with the snooker that now I wasn't doing as much because my shifts had changed. I've now gone from working 4 nights to 5 nights. I'm not seeing the lads as much. This has happened. And I confronted. And then it's like, it's all my fault. So I've gone, not because I'm straight away, well, what have I done wrong? You remember, I've told you, I thought no one liked me. Growing up, no one likes me. No one respects me. They only want what they can get out of me. And that's how the mindset went, Jimmy. And it was, well, okay. And then it turns out that he's got the same fucking first name as me. His missus is called her name as well. I thought, fuck me, you can't write this. And it turns out that the emails were sent the day that we'd come back from a holiday that my mum and dad had paid for us all to be at Centre Parks, and he just fucking destroyed me.
Yeah.
And rather than do something positive about it and like leave or do something, I just went within myself. I just went, all right, okay, so I can't not be around my son because he's the only thing that's going right for me.
Yeah.
And the next few years were just, to coin a phrase, a complete clusterfuck. And it just went wrong, and I went, nobody, and then that's where I just went, okay, I don't care about this situation. I'm just living in a house now. I'm living in a house. That sofa's my bed. You do you, I'll do me. And for the outside world, no one realised that. No one. It was this fucking bullshit pretense that was put on. People see me down the pub, and I'm, and they never see me drunk, Jimmy, because I'm going here, I'm going there. They don't see me at home singing Adele at fucking 2 o'clock in the morning and dancing to bloody Return of the Mac an hour later and then putting Happy Hardcore on at fucking 5 o'clock in the morning. They're not seeing all this, and I hated being here. Yeah. I hated this world, and every horrible thought I'd ever had growing up and all them things that were there, it just come back. And the best part of my day, mate, was with my eyes shut. Yeah. Best part of my fucking day, because I was open, they'd never open again. And how angry was I every day they opened? Fucking angry. And I was even angry if I woke up and there was no beer and I had to, that's all it was. And it was a cycle of just sheer shit. And then Dad becomes ill. My boy gets diagnosed with autism. I'm still navigating being a dad to my eldest boy. I'm navigating this world now where Dad's going to be ill. The house we were living in was falling down, so we had to find another place to live because there was a tree with subsidence, and it's just like, and this is where it sounds like it's blame culture and woe is me and stuff like that. I had no idea what I was doing. So what did I know how to do? I knew how to go out there and go and solve your problems, Jimmy. I know how to go and speak to somebody about if your child's been diagnosed with autism, because I've been there. If you've got something going wrong with your housing, I know a little bit about that. And I was one of them people, like I said, if I knew a little bit about something, and this personality wasn't there, it was just an identity that had been created.
Yeah.
And it was just built on lies and unhappiness and sadness and depression that was being masked with singing Hey Jude at the end of the fucking night and dancing with everyone when we score a goal, or, oh, well done, you've got promotion at work, let's get the drinks in and all that, yeah. Going to darts events, not realise how overweight I was going, all of this, and then again, come on, tonight's got to be the night. Tonight's got to be the night. And there were just times I was battered, just battered, where, and I just can't do this. I can't do this anymore. That's it, I'm going to stop. But of course, then the physical withdrawals are kicked in. And I can't hold my phone, I can't brush my teeth, I can't text no one, can't do this, can't do that. Where's my lager? I've got to get more of that down my throat. And it was just a horrible time when I look back and say, when you said earlier on about he's got to be lying. Yeah. All the photos, Jimmy, this is the thing, there's no videos of me, because I made sure I made sure of that. And the photos that you see, I'll dictate when they were taken. Yeah. You won't see them. You won't see them images. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, Dan, thank you for sharing that. It's such a powerful, example of what life can throw at us and how we deal with it. And you were dealing with it with the alcohol, because that was your mask, that was your avatar, that was your way of basically hiding. It's escapism, isn't it? You're just retreating into the darkness even more. We think we're doing all right, but you've almost accepted that, what, I know that I'm drinking and I'm hoping that this drinking is gonna kill me almost. Do you know what I mean? You're waiting for those eyes to shut and hoping they don't open again. And that
it was the coldest hug. It was the coldest hug you could ever fucking not wish to get every pissing day. Yeah. I was known as this big Dan, Stella and a straight glass. Yeah. That's what I was known as. Yeah. And I mean, what a fucking identity to have. Oh, absolutely. Stan Miguel straight glass. Not Al's Dan. Stan Miguel straight glass Dan. That's how it was.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're what, like early 30s at this point? Do you know what I mean? I used to work in pubs and I'd have the old guys that would come in and they'd have their, some would have like a jug or this and that, and you'd always know what they were drinking, and that was kind of, but it's like, you've got that identity at 30.
Straight away, didn't matter where we went, people just, that's the local. I didn't have to ask. Yeah. Didn't have to ask, There'd obviously be the odd joke, someone would say, do you want to try the new things there or anything like that? But, and again, when people go, but you were happy, you were recognised, you were liked by people. I'm like, you may think that. Yeah. You may believe that I was liked by people. Perhaps you did. Perhaps you did like me. Yeah. But I'm trying to explain to you, I thought you hated me. Yeah. Yeah. This and here, this is telling me. And when they look at me, I said, but don't think that you're not allowed to enjoy that time that we had together. Because that I'm not taking that away from you. I'm not saying that what that environment was. I said things were funny, but I was having no fun.
Yeah. You had some kind of imbalance in the brain that was telling you that this person doesn't like me, that why are they putting on this show, so I'm going to put on this show that I'm having fun and all that. And did you think at any point in that time, I need to get some help?
No, because there was no problem, Jimmy. The only problem was I kept waking up. Yeah. That's that's it. I remember being screamed at by my sister once. And I think she didn't know how to handle me, and she just screamed at me. She said, "Dan, you're an alcoholic." So what did I do that day? I went out and bought 36 tins of Stella and drank them to prove I didn't have a problem. That's just sort of, what a genius thing to do. Or you come back with well, you drink wine. Fucking, what rational person uses that as an argument? Yeah. You're an alcoholic. Well, you must be one as well because you have a glass of wine every now and then. Yeah. You go your whole life. And then you go, then I used to say to people, well, I'll tell you what, then if I say to you, don't ever drink again and it worries you, and you can't say yes, you must have a problem. Yeah. And I look back with these things I used to say and I cringe. Yeah. I cringed at what my rebuttal was to something that was hiding in plain sight, and that was me, Jimmy, hiding in
Well,
plain sight.
you had to say something, didn't you? It was this defense mechanism. It's like, well,
Absolutely.
I mean, did you think at that point? I mean, did you know that you were an alcoholic, even if you used that word, or
There was one time where I was sat down with somebody, a friend of mine. She's called Sam, and we were talking one day, and I used them. I said, "I'm fucking had enough of this." I said, "Well, I'm no alcoholic," and she turned and she went, "Do you really not think you are, Dan?" And it crushed me because she's someone that looked up to me. She's someone that used to call me, looked at me as a father figure, and I'm like, right. And I've just quickly scuttled it along with something. No. What was my favourite one was I was either on blood thinners or antidepressants at the time. I didn't take either. It was that was making me shake and move yellow and shit like that.
Yeah.
And but then the real dark times, Jimmy. I don't know if ever you did this or not, mate. It was the Ed Sheeran song. It wasn't playing at the time, but I think it's the Bad Habits one. Voices at 2 o'clock in the whatever it is.
Yeah.
And I used to do that 2 o'clock in the morning. That's it now. No more. Once this is done, I'm done.
Oh.
I pass out for half an hour, angry that I woke up, and get straight back on it again.
Yeah.
It was just shite.
It was a constant thing for me towards the end because I was like, right, I need to do something about this because I know it's a problem. But then I would fall asleep, wake up, and then I'd be like so, withdrawn and need to get it in me to then feel okay. And then it was like, once I'm okay, it's like, right, I'll make a decision today. Am I going to stop drinking? But I needed to feel okay. And the only way that I was ever going to feel okay was by drinking, a bottle of vodka a day. And that was
exactly. And I know that one because I couldn't, unless I'd had, I don't know, between 4 and 8 big tins of Stella.
Yeah.
The shaking wouldn't stop.
Yeah.
It wouldn't stop. So for me, that was normal.
Yeah.
For me to get to that point, I could hold my alcohol. I'm now functioning normal, but we're not going to talk about the other 10 pints and 18 tins I'm going to have on top of that day because I'm now functioning normal. I used to ring people up, pretending I was opening tins of Dr. Pepper. Yeah. They're not fucking stupid. Well, who drinks fucking 6 tins of Dr. Pepper in an hour?
I called it my sober level, and I would wait till my ex and the kids had gone to work in school, and I'd be like literally shaking in the house. I'd maybe be having a coffee or something if there was nothing left in the house because I'd have stuff stashed around. But then what I'd do is, as soon as they left, I'd make my beeline up to the 24-hour garage, get myself a half bottle of vodka, and I'd be like, I'm only going to have a half bottle today. I'd get down. That would be gone in like 20, 30 minutes. Do you know what I mean? And then I would feel okay. I'd maybe have a wash. I'd maybe have something to eat. But then within half an hour, I'm back up the petrol station. So I'd sometimes make 3 trips up there, because those.
But that was one of my arguments I'd use, Jimmy. I don't drink spirits.
Yeah, I was going to say that because you're drinking.
I don't drink spirits. I used to fucking say it all the time.
You're just drinking lager. People in the pub, as you say, you're going to here, there, and everywhere, not noticing what you're doing at home. So from the outset, Dan comes in and has like maybe 5, 6 Stellas, and then he's off. Do you know what I mean? They don't. They think, well, that's not an alcoholic, And a lot of people do think, unless you're drinking wine or spirits, you're not an alcoholic. You don't have a problem. But
unless I'm there, I can't remember who it was opponent. Unless I was drinking Jameson's out of a brown bag on a park bench. And so you must have been posh bringing it up because it was Jameson. No, it was just the whiskey I remember that Dad used to have every now and then. I was going
to say Jameson's is a posh one, but yeah.
I hated the stuff. I just used to burn my throat. So I was. It was.
The thing with me was like I liked lager, but from an early age, I would maybe have 1 or 2 pints at the beginning of the night, and then I would get onto the spirits because lager just for me it was like it didn't hit the spot as quick as like a shot or a vodka, and then towards the end it was like, well, this is the quickest way that I'm going to feel better. Whereas you're drinking, how many cans to make you in your sober level?
Every day it was a minimum of 18 tins of Stella and 10 pints a day. Yeah.
So, but how many to get you feeling like on an even keel where you're not even drunk?
That was between 4 and 8. 4 or 8 pints of Stella.
So and I'm not trying to make comparisons and stuff, but for me to get to that level where I was feeling okay that I could do stuff, like there was one time I said to the missus, right, I'm going to go round to the Aldi because I'm going to go and get us some food for tonight. I was just hanging. I think it was one of those times when I said that I was cutting down or whatever. And I went straight to the shop. I went and parked my car outside the Aldi before I went in. And I literally downed the half bottle within like a couple of minutes. Do you know what I mean? It was just like glug, 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 put it down. Glug. And then I felt okay. I could go do the shops. I could get the food home. I could get the food on, and then maybe we'd have some wine. Do you know what I mean? But that was it.
Yeah.
It was just the speediest way I could get it in me to make me feel normal again. You know,
I think for me it was such a cycle because I had nothing else going on.
Yeah.
So it was, as soon as I passed out and come around, I was just drinking, and it was just that. It was that 24-hour clock all the time.
Yeah,
all the time.
And I guess with the lager, you can kind of space it out more over the day, because the thing is with me, more often than not, when the ex and the kids came home, I would either be passed out on the sofa or upstairs, or if I hadn't gone over my sweet spot, I could then be okay for the evening and I could space it out. But if I'd gone hard at it too early, too quickly, I'd be passed out and useless, and they'd be like, why is Jimmy passed out on the sofa? Oh, he's had a hard day or something. Do you know what I mean? She'd always make excuses for me, whereas I was just a fucking drunk, man. Let's be honest. I was just a drunk, you know, and not really a good person to be about. So where did it kind of, and I know we'll get into the bit, what, you know, did you start getting, I know you're feeling like shit mentally and all of that, but was there signs that, you know, the liver was starting to fail?
Fuck me, and then some. I look back now, this is why, Jimmy, I speak so passionately about this, because we all ignore it. Everyone that's a drinker, right, it's never going to happen to me. It's never going to happen to me, right? There is a stat where you get 100 people that will drink the same amount and only 15 of them will get alcohol liver disease, right? That's a stat that's out there, and I think it's scientifically proven with that.
Because we're all different. Do you know what I mean? Like, this is the one thing, Dan, and again, I'm not trying to make comparisons, but I had a friend, she sadly passed away last year. She was 36 when she passed away, but I met her in rehab. She was 32 and she came in fully jaundiced in a wheelchair because the nerve endings in her feet had gone to hell and all of that. And I was like, you know, what were your habits and stuff? And I guess I was at that point trying to work out, like, you know, how far away am I from this and all that? But everyone's different, aren't they? It doesn't matter.
We're all different.
You're drinking, your genetic makeup.
And that's what people have to remember. You know, it's this bollocks about for every pint of lager you drink, you got to drink a pint of water. You got to do this. You got to eat. You got to do it. No. It doesn't work that way. The liver will forgive you until it won't forgive you.
Yeah.
And I learned that. But the signs, you know, like, so my feet, for example, there were some days I just didn't. I mean, at one point I was wearing size 14 shoes. I'm a size 12, right? Because the edema was that bad.
Oh yeah.
All my socks had cuts in because the elastic would go into my legs. Legs were sore. People used to think I must have massive, you know, muscular legs underneath my jeans. They weren't. They were just like blocks of water. But where people talk about people think you've got to be jaundiced, looking like Homer Simpson. That's one of the last things that kicks in. It's your bilirubin levels. So for me, the signs were I was pissing shitting blood, being cold all the time. I'd lost rapid amounts of weight. But like I say, my legs were very, very swollen. I had darkness around me, not yellow. And when I look back now, my hair was thinner. Didn't realise that at the time. And so, cirrhosis on the elbow, itchiness. These are all things I realise now, obviously, after having pissing end-stage liver disease. But at the time, and I think that the more you deny it, forget the physicality, the more you're denying something, that means you're ignoring what's going on. So the more I'm denying this, because if I talk to you to your face, because normally I wouldn't make eye contact, if I'm talking to your eyes, you're not going to look at my legs. And if you're looking at me, you're not going to see me shaking. But actually, the reality is I'm like, you know, I'm auditioning to play the part of someone that's got Parkinson's, you know what I mean? Because I'm constantly shaking. And I used to do a thing where I'd walk in and pick a pint glass up from the bottom and like look at it to show to show people I wasn't shaking. How the fuck I never spilled it, I don't know. It's these things that I was doing to try and hide, you know, put the Houdini effect on, if you will.
And you when you were doing that with the glass, was that because you'd had quite a few and you'd got yourself to?
Yeah, couldn't have done that fucking.
No, exactly. Before. So, and would you be drinking like quite a bit before you'd even get to the pub?
Yeah. I had
all
to
day,
sure
obviously. Yeah.
There was always a tremor. There was always a tremor, and I remember a doctor. See, this is where it's dangerous when you talk to, you know, people in addiction. When you're listening, you've got a slight tremor there. We need to investigate that. I've heard you've got early onset something. So I would say to people, doctor told me I've got a tremor, they're looking into it, so please don't ask me about it because it makes me anxious as it is. Load of bollocks. I was jonesing because I hadn't had enough lager before I'd walked out the door. So this is the bullshit creation that I was doing. I'm sure people listening will be nodding their heads at the same time, going, "Yeah, I've done that." And so I know I'm not the first one that has. But the physical looking back, and it's sad, Jimmy, when I look back at some of the, when I look back at how ill I was, because when I was as ill as what I was, there were photos out there that were taken where I looked just as bad. But because because it's being taken out in a public place, there are no photos of me drunk and all that, but there's plenty of photos of me looking very fucking ill.
Yeah.
Where I'm going, I'm not going to pose while I'm drunk, but I'll pose while I look like this. I'm drunk all the time.
Yeah.
It's this silly brain.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, so that's obviously you've got the signs, and that's the thing. It's our bodies trying to tell us. Like, I remember you just opened up a memory there, because I was unlocked a memory, because I was in the pub, and this is like maybe 6 years before I stopped, but I was in the pub, and me and another girlfriend at the time, we'd been out, and I'd had a big weekend. We were big drinkers. We would drink like bottles and bottles of whiskey in the place. Like, we were both just mad on it. And I remember I was working in a pub, and I'd got through this horrendous evening shift, and I always had a pint at the end of the night, and then I'd go home and get on it. And I came round the bar, and I went to pick up the pint, and I literally couldn't I had to use, no one was watching, but I had to use 2 hands to bring this pint up.
Yeah.
And I was doing that, and I was gulping it. No one was around. It was kind of the end of the night. And as soon as I got like half of it down me, I could then start drinking it normally. I was terrified, because I was like, why the fuck can't I even pick up a pint? Do you know what I mean? But it was definitely the start of something.
There was 1 or 2 occasions in which people have clocked me doing that, because I used to. The other one that I'd order fucking hell, what was it called? Corona. I'd order, because it was easier to pick up. People would go, what's he drinking that for? And I go, you got it on 4 for 10, 4 for whatever it was, Someone else was drinking number 2 in a minute. It weren't. It's because I could hold the bottle and get outside and chug it down as quick as possible. I thought you saving the other 2 for someone else. Oh, no, well, I must have dropped one of them. Did I fuck? I'm just down out there necking them.
Yeah.
So I come back and get these in a straight glass.
Yeah, because you don't want someone to see you looking like a child picking up a pint with 2 hands.
You got it.
Yeah.
You got it, mate.
Yeah. So at what point did it start? I mean, you obviously could see that this was, could you see that this was damaging? This was alcohol that was doing this purely? Or did
I knew it. I knew. Again, denial. You take my name, Daniel, you rearrange it. It spells denial.
Yeah,
that is me in a nutshell. But what happened was I tried doing to prove I didn't have a problem in 2019. I tried doing Stoptober for drinking, right? Whatever. One of these many fads that come around every year.
Yep.
And I tried giving up drinking for 4 hours, and we had the paramedics out. Because I couldn't. I was convulsed. I was in hell of a state, and they called out. My friend come round, and she sat there, and I'm just bullshitting to the paramedics. Right, I'm going. I've got this, and I don't know what's come on now. I haven't had my medication today. What medication are you on? I thought, well, you can't fucking check it on your system if I don't tell you. I can't remember the name of it. It's something ends in Zidane or whatever. I'm thinking of footballers, aren't I? And then they were there for about an hour and a half, right? And it was that bad when they went to leave. I couldn't sign the electronic thing. They had to write, patient could not sign. They made a doctor's appointment for the following day. And my friend, she came and picked me up, and she said, have you had something to drink today? I went, I've had a few to calm it down. She went, all right then. We got into the doctor's, my name got called out, and she frog marched me into the doctor's room, and she went, right, I'm going to talk on his behalf. He drinks X amount every single day. He's got a problem. He won't admit it. Do something about it. All right then. I was like, well, you fucking blindsided me there. I was expecting to go in and bullshit the doctor a little bit more.
And that's a good friend. That is an amazing friend.
Absolutely.
Obviously, you're hating her at that point, but
didn't know what to fucking say.
Yeah.
I'm normally quite good on the spot for giving out bullshit, but I'm like, all right.
And all you're thinking is how quickly can I get out here and get some more beer?
So he took some bloods, and from that being told to the doctor, he took some blood tests, and it was because of them I was under the hepatology department. So I got taken to I got a letter to go and see them at the John Radcliffe, and they'd done a CT scan or something, and then they did a fibro scan, and this woman turns around and goes, oh no, I said to her, how what's the score then? She said, it's 75, Dan. I said, is that good? And she went, it gets no worse. It's as high as it can go. Have you ever heard of turning point? I went, well, where's this going? And I went back into the doctor and he said, right, you've got cirrhosis of the liver. Now, what I heard, Jimmy, was this. Dan, you got cirrhosis of the liver, you're going to be dead within 2 years.
Yeah.
That's what I heard. Reality is this, mate. The doctor said, Dan, your liver's not good. If you don't stop drinking, potentially you might not be here in 2 years. But being the egotistical addict that I was, I fucking thought, you know, so what did I do that night, Jimmy? I go straight to the local Sainsbury's, I go and buy 18 tins of Stella. I go on Facebook Live that night, and I'm telling everyone, I've got no problem with alcohol. They told me this, I'm going to be the first person that's ever cured this thing called cirrhosis because I've got no alcohol problem. 2019. We roll on into 2020, where I've gone for an endoscopy because my liver apparently isn't looking too good. The following day, I just fucking decorated the house from top to bottom in blood. Oh. I had a massive GI esophageal bleed. Oh. And I remember we bought this bucket that's never been used before. And I used it that day just to throw fucking blood up. And it was coming out of everywhere. My eyes, my ears, my ass, my nose, my mouth, you name it.
Who were you living with at this point, Dan?
Connor's still in the same. We're still with the youngest boy's mum.
Yeah.
We've been living a charlatan life at this point for about 10 fucking years.
And were they there when this happened? Were they?
Well, it was It was the day. It was well. Can you because we're not going to ban it. It was the day of the party at Buckingham Palace at COVID.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
So I ring the endoscopy suite, and I said I had an endoscopy yesterday, and I'm throwing up blood everywhere. Well, that don't sound normal. The fuck, we know we don't. You want to try? Also, that don't sound normal. That don't sound right. And anyway, I went to the hospital, and all that day after I'd thrown blood up everywhere. I mean, everywhere's decorated. And I get there, and she hands me this little fucking paper toilet thing. If you're going to be sick into that. I'm like, well, I ain't very good. So all I'm thinking, self-preservation, can't throw it, because I'm remembering still, I've got lager in the fridge at home, right? Yeah. I'm remembering I've got all that. And because I've been drinking after the endoscopy. When I got back, I had the endoscopy. They said, don't drink. No, fuck that. I went straight to drinking till fucking midnight. I remember saying that night, I went upstairs and I said to Connor's mum, I don't feel right. Can you check on me at some point? I don't want the boy walking down and finding me. Mm-hmm. Shut up, don't be so fucking stupid. Anyway, that's what happened the next day. And so throughout the whole day in hospital, I haven't thrown up blood at any point. I've had x-rays done, chest x-rays done and all this. And they come to me and they said, right, we'll see you in this other room now. And I thought, well, they're going to be telling me I'm going to go home. So all day long, Jimmy, everyone has come up to me has been in PPE gear, up to the nines, mask, gloves, you name it. And I walk into this room, this side room, and there's two doctors in civvies there. And I went, all right, then what's going on there? So take a seat. We're in a bed in there, take a seat. Your chest x-ray and everything comes back. You're not going to make it through the night. What? I've been here all day. I haven't thrown up blood. No, your internal bleeding is that bad. We're giving you a 50% chance of making it through the night. Have you got anyone here?
What percent chance? Sorry, mate.
50%.
And how were you feeling? Like, I know you've thrown up and all that, but are you just feeling like as rough as you normally would feel? Like
absolutely rough as arseholes. Still jonesing a little bit because I've got no alcohol in my system properly.
But you're thinking, I can go home. I'm ready to go home.
Because Connor's mum was sat in the car park waiting.
Yeah. And you're thinking, I've got some lagers in the fridge. I can go and drink.
That's all I'm thinking at this time. All I'm thinking, right? So then they say, have you got anyone here? And Connor's mum come up and they said, right, just so you know, it's probably the last time you're going to see him. And she went, well, he's on his own anyway. He's done this to himself. See you later. I'm like, all right. Which she's entitled to do. I'm not blaming anyone there. And then fucking hell. I tried to go somewhere to get a chicken sandwich from the shop downstairs. I can't remember much. And the next day I wake up and I'm the most cocky, belligerent bastard on the planet. I am. The doctor comes up to me and I go, well, you told me it was 50%, last night. What is it? 70-30 my favour, 60-40 Grim Reaper and all that. And he puts his hand on my shoulder and goes, I'm giving you 20% chance of making it through the next hour. And that's 15% chance more than what I should do. And as soon as he took his hand off my shoulder, these doctors and staff come running towards me, and I've decorated the ward, decorated from top to bottom. And then the next fucking thing I know, I've woken up and I've been told I'm looking around and you're not in Kansas anymore, Dan. Yeah. So where the fucking hell am I? You're in the ICU in the John Radcliffe in Oxford. What's your address? I gave my address of the childhood home because I couldn't remember fucking all this. And I said, what's happened? And he said, well, you weren't there for a while, Dan. And I went, what do you mean I weren't there for a while? He said, I think you can figure that part out. You're not out of the woods yet. Probably won't make it to the end of the week.
Jeez.
And, you know, then it got fucking real, Jimmy. Then you know, we're talking paracentesis, weekly stomach drains, where it was always, we hope to see you next week. It was never, we'll see you next week. You're the most critical patient that we've got. Then I was having my stomach drain one day. I found out my brother had died. He was a world-renowned bodybuilder. And I even joked with the doctor. I said, well, if my brother's liver's doing nothing, can I not have his? You know, I didn't know what the fuck to do. This is a coincidence. And then we got to sort of the end of, we got to middle of 2021, March 2021, I went for an operation where they tried putting a stent in my liver. That didn't work. Then we're talking transplant process, and the transplant process goes up and down like a yo. You can be on it, off it. All depends on physicality. And I was fucking ill. I was so ill. I went from 24 stone down to 12. I was sarcopenic. I was bones. I had malnutrition. I was anything that was wrong could go wrong. But I didn't want to be known as drunk. You know, so that was my first reason for staying sober, was I didn't want to die being known as an alcoholic. Turns out you're going to be known that the rest of your life. And I went to Turning Point after, because I went for my liver transplant assessment, walked in there wearing this hoodie that says, this Dan can. She clocked me, Nuala. She went, I've got your number. And she just said this to me. She said, well, let me get this right. You still drink non-alcoholic beer. You tried tapping out twice. You go to Turning Point to tell people your story. You haven't got a clue who you are. And you expect us to give you the gift of life. I suggest you go and work on yourself. And I walked out of that room. I fucking hated her. I'm like, well, I thought the alcohol bit, because I hadn't been drinking for a year at this point.
Yeah.
Best thing. Went to Turning Point, become a peer mentor with them. Jess, the manager there one day, she handed me a bit of paper that said cocky in recovery. I said, does that mean? And she went, read it if that's what you think. And through that, somebody turned to me and said, your story's quite inspirational. Have you ever thought putting music in words? I went, no, why? They said, you should try it. I said, what do you mean? They said, have you heard this thing called TikTok? I said, that's for 14-year-old fucking girls. I'm not using that. I put my story on TikTok. Someone starts following me. A comment leads to a message leads to a phone call leads to meeting up. June the 30th, 4 years ago, I came over and met this lovely lady. She obviously had a wife, my beautiful Claire. And there's a massive bit that I've missed out with everything that's gone on there. So we met. We got engaged. Well, we met. I moved in. We got engaged. I had an operation on my liver that didn't go well. Just before we got married, her mum had a stroke. Her mum's 92 now. She couldn't make the wedding. We get married. About a week and a half later, Claire had a holiday that she'd already booked with her friend. She goes on that. We get a phone call. We're putting you back on the transplant list. And 1,111 days sober, I get a phone call. We don't normally ring our patients on a Saturday, Dan, but we think we've got a liver for you. And that was 3 years ago on the 4th of June. And as we were being driven there, we were being driven by somebody who had received a kidney transplant. He was the King and Queen's bodyguard. He's shown us photos of looking after Queen in situ. And everything that could go right did go right. And if it wasn't for my gorgeous wife being by my side throughout all of that, I don't know how the fuck I would have coped. She said something to me when we first started talking. She learned about live liver donation because she'd become one. And she said this to me: if everything you've ever told me, I'd have never left you on your own. Most selfless woman you'll ever meet. I love her with all my heart. And yeah, I know that's probably the bit I love talk about more than anything. I know it's, you know, but
mate, I mean, it's such an amazing story. And you know, we will talk about Claire as well, because she sounds like an absolute gem, a legend and a hero in your life. And you know, just to give you that positivity from what you were going through, because I was going to say, like, from when you, that time in the hospital, you know, when you were given 50% and then 20%, which is 15 more than he should have given you, like that whole time, that's pretty much when you stopped drinking then, yeah?
So he came to me, I got taken out of ICU and was brought up to a ward. So I was actually in hospital for about 10 days.
Yeah.
Because they were shutting wards down left, right and centre because of COVID.
Yeah.
And this doctor, nurse walked in, he said, if you ever drink again, you will die. And I went, wow. You know, and he said, no. He said, the amount of Librium we've pumped into you, you go home and you drink. Just don't bother.
You're done.
It will kill you. It will kill you. And, you know, moments like that I remember. Here's the funny one, right? Before I got discharged from hospital, they come up to me and they're talking about, you know, try and get some help, you know, AA and all this Turning Point. And this doctor came to me, and there was Michelle, the alcohol liaison nurse, and she's telling me all this. And he said, "So, I can see you've obviously got a problem with drinking." I'm like, "What fucking gave it away?" And he says, "Oh well, have you ever thought about taking up smoking to counteract the not drinking?" I gave up smoking 8 years ago, mate. Yeah. That was, and Michelle, to this day, still can't get over what he said. She wanted the ground to swallow because she got to know me in a very short time, the character that I am. Yeah. Well, I just fucking tore him to pieces, didn't I? Yeah. I'm like, are you for real? So I said, my liver's fucked, so I'm going to get cancer instead.
Yeah. Was he from the 1950s? A doctor from the 1950s?
I was half expecting Quincy M.E. to walk through the fucking door. Do you know what I
mean? Yeah. You've been stitched up. So it was 3 years you were on the transplant list?
So I was put on the transplant list in 2021. So from 2020, 2021, there were no transplants going on because of the way the world was. Yeah. So I went for my assessment in May 2021. I was listed at the end of June 2021. Then we got into my liver started doing weird and wonderful things. So the liver can go from obviously being decompensated to recompensated. Yeah. It can be, people need to understand that. And if you've got alcohol cirrhosis of the liver, the one thing you got to do is stop drinking if you want to get anywhere getting better. So because they started doing that, and because every time I blood test them, my liver counts come back normal, as did my kidney functions. And they said, unless we knew that you were ill, we wouldn't know you were ill from a medical stance. So we got to 2022, and my weight had started to stable. My liver wasn't getting any better, but it didn't seem to get any worse. It was still completely cirrhosically ridden. And I was under I was under two hospitals, the John Radcliffe and the Royal Free, because the Royal Free is the transplant hospital. And because you have a doctor and you have a mister. And the surgeon was like, this guy needs a new liver. And my doctor at Oxford was very much, well, I think we can treat him the way that he is. So I'm being pulled from pillar to post. So they took me off the transplant list and said, but you keep your air miles, basically. So even if you're off it, all the time, and I'm trying to get my head around it. I'm like, right, I'm suffering with encephalopathy, where at one point I've rang my friends up to tell them I'm playing Ronnie O'Sullivan at Twickenham, right, while I'm using a fork to ring Domino's Pizza to complain about my Chinese that's not being delivered by the Indian takeaway, right? Picking my fucking phone up out of the phone and replacing it with milk, out of the fridge with milk, all sorts of things, right? Changing tablets, changing this, changing that. And then I moved from where I was to where I am now. So I was under the Royal Free altogether. They started looking after me, and I had an operation. They went, this liver's fucked. He needs a transplant. And I rang Oxford up, and he realised what had gone on. And so that's how that happened. And when they listed me, they used these words when they called me. We're activating you back on the list. Let's get you transplanted as soon as possible. They'd never once said that. 9 days later, I got a phone call.
Yeah. And
so there's a lot.
How did you, because it's, like you had that, person in the transplant board or whatever that was calling you cocky and what was it? Yeah. Cocky in recovery. And all
that was just the turning point, called me cocky in recovery.
Yeah, but do you think that those people were looking down upon you because you've done this to yourself? This is your fault and blah, blah, blah.
I think their concern from the MDT stance was the suicide attempts.
Yeah.
I think they needed to see that I was cognitively okay, that I was doing things, in the right way. And I was actually, rather than telling everyone how great I am, showing people actually how great I'm doing. Yeah. And I did that through becoming a peer mentor. I did that through, I was being weekly breathalyzer tests. They could turn up at my house anytime they fucking wanted to take blood tests and breathalyzers. I was under God knows how many different doctors and surgeons at this point. So if I had a drink, Jimmy, someone would have seen it.
Of course.
So that,
of course.
Do you know what I mean?
But then I suppose,
but I didn't want to, and that was the difference. As soon as I got out of hospital, after the first month of I was so ill, I never missed alcohol.
Yeah.
I never had a craving for it.
Because I think they've got a duty of care. Because obviously you're getting a liver from some poor unfortunate soul. And they want to know that you're not going to go straight back out and start caning that one. And that's my next question. Did you ever once think, and you've already answered it, because that's it. You come out there and you think, well, I know you're on meds and anti-rejection meds and all of these things, but you could do a Georgie Best. Do you know what I mean? Because he lasted a good time.
And that name, Jimmy, is who I get tired with. And I think that with George Best, And I suppose I get a little bit, again, passionate. It's because it was addiction that killed him.
Yeah,
And this is what
it's
people
a,
have to understand.
it's a disease,
And it weren't,
you know.
it wasn't the fact that he thought, fuck it, I don't love my liver. He was sat in a pub garden one day and he fancied a white wine spritzer.
Yeah.
And he said to the bar, the lady, oh, I fancy a white wine spritzer. And as we all know, you take the sip of the shit if it's going to get you.
Yeah.
And I was called that. Jimmy, when I was ill, mate, I had death threats through my door. I had people telling me that I wasn't worthy of it. I had people saying I shouldn't have been given the jab, which ironically gave me a fucking blood clot. You know, I had so much shit. And George Best's name was banded at me a lot. And any shit I get from people online, it's that.
Yeah.
Which gives me a great chance to regale all the facts that they are very incorrect about, and to put the correct spin on it. But I now know that from when I was ill, I was very aware to learn about what was wrong with me. What was wrong with the person in the bed next to me wasn't that important.
Mm-hmm.
I cared about them. I wanted them to get better, but I needed to know what was wrong with me. I needed to know what was making me tick. I wanted to know, understand. I started learning about cognitive dissonance. I started to understand a lot more. Started to learn about what this can do. Then the big thing, how the fuck does organ donation work? You know, why am I going to be told I get a liver? Why does an alcoholic get a liver? It don't work that way, Dan. It doesn't work that way. Yeah. You know, you will be matched, and if you're the only person on that list that matches you, it will go to you. If there is somebody who has got cancer, for example, and they're being treated with chemo, and the whole idea of chemo is to make that person better, their lifespan is on paper longer than what yours is. Mm-hmm. To be transplanted, you are end-stage liver disease. That means your liver can do no more. Yeah. When they transplanted, and I've got photos of the liver they took out of me, which I will send to you, Jimmy, and you will see how fucking close I was to not being here. Yeah. You know, and how grateful I am. I mean, I don't know the family, but I know it was a gentleman in his early 60s who passed away in order for me to be here now. And there ain't a fucking day that goes by that I don't thank that man. Every video that I do, every breath that I take, everything I stand in everything that we do. The time we go abroad, when I go to Aldi shopping, or I'm walking the dogs, or I'm getting pissed off that Barney the cockapoo's barking at a squirrel for no fucking reason, right? I get to see all these things because of that man. And I've learned so much about organ donation. I've learned so much about what goes in behind the scenes, the people that work it, the people that are in the call centres, on the transplant team and all that, right? For me to even have that thought of would one sit, it's not there, mate. It's just not there.
And you know what? We are so thankful to that guy as well, mate, because we wouldn't have you doing all these reels and videos and podcasts and just doing what you're doing for the cause, because you know what, like, people mention, this is what I was saying when I was on Will Gordon's, you know, the Willpower podcast.
Yeah,
he's been through the same thing as you, and people have this horrible, like, the word alcoholic has the negative connotation anyway in itself, but as soon as they hear someone with a liver transplant, it's like, oh, you really pushed the boat out, you really did this to yourself. And it's like, no, it's a fucking disease. Like, I know there's a Scottish reporter who did a documentary for the BBC. She was 32 and she would binge maybe once a month with her friends from uni. You know, she had a little daughter, she was married, and she went to the doctor because she was feeling lethargic, and they did an LFT, and her enzymes were, I think they were super high or super low, whichever it is. And they said, listen, if you carry on this way, you're going to get cirrhosis. She was 32 and she was like, but I'm not an alcoholic. I don't drink. And it's like, yeah, but you know what? This is what your liver's telling you.
And it happens. Yeah. And it happens. I've got friends that have got autoimmune disease. Spoggy, for example, woke up one day, his legs were like, were they swollen? Went to hospital. When he was bleeding internally, had cirrhosis of the liver. Yeah. Out of nowhere. Out of absolutely nowhere. You know, like I say, it forgives you and it will look after you. Yeah. But you've got to understand that there's a point. But with liver disease, it's not just one cap fits all. Exactly. And it's not for people to go, it's not for people to go, oh, you're an alcoholic, your liver's fucked. Well, your liver's not doing too great either if you say boat as me, is it? Yeah. So what have you done wrong? And what have you done wrong in your life?
You know, the thing with me was I was like, oh, yeah, you know, and I kind of like thought, yeah, I've got a drink problem and I'll just, you know, blah, blah, blah. But I'll be fine. You know, it's when I'm in my 60s or 70s, that's when I'll get cirrhosis. That's when I'll end it. Do you know what I mean? Because that's what you see in the news and all that. We don't hear, but by people like yourself that are making it more out in the open, more talking about it and telling people, do you know what? You don't have to be old. And you don't have to be, obviously, you were.
And that's where the stats come in. You know, the stats come in where people go, you've only got 10 years left to live, you get a liver transplant, because a lot of the stats are done on people that are 65, 70 that get transplanted. The stats done on younger people you don't see. Yeah. You know, I've got friends that are 30, 40 years into being gifted, you know, and it's
But
an
then
amazing.
Then we hear people that are saying, and do you know what? I was a culprit of this as well. Have a good weekend on the booze and all that and on the drugs. And you're like, oh, do you know what? My liver took an absolute pounding this weekend, but it repaired itself. Bollocks.
Jimmy, I've got a status that came up on my memories the other day, and it said, fucking hell, clearly I gave my liver a good kicking last night. I need a new one soon. Right? That came up on my memories from years ago, and I'm like,
Right.
I used to joke about that all the
Yeah.
fuck. I didn't even realise the liver was this big ass organ that goes across here. I thought
Yeah.
it was this little thing down here.
Yeah.
And
It's
there's
amazing.
lots I look back now. We can't change that, but what I can do is educate and help
Exactly.
people.
That's it. You and me both, mate. Is trying to tell people, do you know what? This little recreational pastime that you think is just a bit of fun, it's not. Do you know what I mean? Like,
It's
I don't
fucking
have a
egg.
problem with people that have one or two here and there, but let's be honest, the majority of people aren't doing that. They're going out to get caned. They're out going to get
Yeah.
smashed, and that every time they wake up the next day is a little bit more damage being done. You know, it's the withdrawal, it's the damage, it's a poison. Let's be honest, and it's not just liver damage. It's linked to 200 diseases, and it's a carcinogen. So.
Yeah. I can't remember how many cancers it's linked to. It's linked to shit like
seven cancers, and it'll
Seven cancers,
probably be 8
yeah.
soon. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Dan, I've got a couple of quick fire questions, mate, before we finish it up. What's the hardest truth that you've had to accept about yourself? I say it's quick fire. That one's probably not.
No, that I'm all right.
Yeah, mate. I like it.
That you know, I'm not a bad person. It's all right to like me.
Yeah, yeah. Well, mate, I love you, so you know that's all right. You just need to start loving yourself, which I know you do.
Straight back, I do, mate. I do, and
you do now, and that's the main thing.
And I love myself, and that's not in an egotistical way. That is a fucking truthful statement.
I learn in sobriety to be okay with myself, to spend time with myself without music, without distraction, to be okay within myself without having to escape. And that was the most powerful thing I ever did. For a person listening to this at 2 a.m. wondering if they have a problem, what would you tell them?
If you're asking that question, you've already answered it.
Yeah, like that.
And that's, you know, your search. How will I word this? I can guarantee your search bar is: am I an alcoholic? Do I drink too much? How much does it take for liver disease? What's liver cancer? What's liver cirrhosis? Yeah. If any of them are in your search bar, if you type in L in your fucking phone and it comes up liver, or you type in A and it comes up alcohol, you've answered your question there.
Yeah. What's the old saying? If you think you've got a problem with alcohol, then you've got a problem with alcohol.
Yeah,
it's that simple. Do you know what I mean? One habit that keeps you steady now, Dan?
Love.
I love it, man. He's a romantic at heart. I love it, mate. Yeah. It
is love. Simple as that.
A podcast, film, or a book about recovery or hope?
God. What ones that I know?
Yeah, one that you've seen, like you've watched a film or read a book about recovery or hope, or listened to a podcast.
I'll tell you a book about recovery that I would implore anyone to is Mum, Can You Lend Me 20 Quid?
Is what?
And it's by the lady who founded Drug Fam.
Okay.
Margaret. Yeah, Mum, Can You Lend Me 20 Quid? It's about her two sons who we've got into deep heroin addiction. One of them's not here anymore. Yeah. And how they went, and fuck me. There's a poem in there called Lady Heroin. And if you get a chance to read it, it sums up so many things from all of us. So, Mum, can you lend me 20 quid? Mate, fantastic.
I am an avid reader or audible listener, so I don't even ask this question for my listeners. I ask it for me so that I can build up my catalogue of books and stuff and all the knowledge that I'm getting. So it's not for my listeners, it's for me.
Yeah,
so that's Mum, can you lend me 20 quid?
Mum, can you lend me 20 quid? If people get a chance to listen to a podcast about, listen to Terry Devine's episode on Menace to Sobriety.
Yeah, I'll put that in the show notes as well.
And a book about.
Yeah,
go on, mate. Sorry.
No, go on.
No, I can't. I'm trying to think. The thing is that there's that many. I mean, obviously, I'm gonna say that Will and Dave's podcast. I mean, Dave's podcast is one of the one. I mean, obviously, I'll be blessed to be on here as Dave's, because he's just got such a way. It's that. All right, Dave, and it's his voice.
Do you know what I mean? You know Dave's voice from like
it's mesmerising.
It's
mesmerising.
Yeah, no, I love Dave.
And a film about. I mean, there's a film. I think it was years ago. I watched Basketball Diaries. I think it's Mark Wahlberg and Leonardo DiCaprio years ago.
And there's some older actors in it, but yeah, no, that's a good one, mate. That's a good one. And then lastly, Dan, one word that describes your life now.
Happy.
Yeah, I like it, man. And I bet
And that's, you know,
you'd never
you've
be
got
able to
happy,
say
you've
that.
got perfect, you've got content.
Yeah, but I bet you've never been able to say
Happy.
that.
I'm just the happiest.
Back before you got
Never.
sober, you
I'm
were never.
never, you know, and I
And it's such a
never
tumultuous
happy.
life
I was never happy. And
from even, you know, even before 19, but when 19, when you know, the birth of your eldest son, and I'm not saying that was an unhappy time, but you were unhappy because of all these other things going on in your life, and that's just led you
massively.
up to, and now you can finally say you're happy, mate. I'm so happy for you.
Never knew happiness. I never knew love and never knew happiness until I met Claire, mate.
Mate. Well, what a way to end the episode, mate. Thank you so much, Dan. It's been absolute joy and pleasure, mate.
Jimmy, you're a legend. Yeah. Absolute legend. Thank you so much for your time, my man.
Thanks, mate. Take it easy, mate, and enjoy.
See you soon, brother. Take care, mate.
Enjoy the rest of your evening. Cheers, man.
Cheers, buddy.
Thank you, Dan. Yeah, as I said at the beginning, you know, it's a tough listen, but thank you, Dan, for sharing it so many times. You know, I've heard him on Sober Dave on the Willpower podcast, and you know, I think the more and more that Dan shares his story, the more and more people are going to start to realize that, you know, yeah, that 60-year-old man that you know, Dan's now got a new lease of life from. That's a tragic thing, but we need to be more understanding that someone that is going through liver cirrhosis, they didn't want this, they didn't need this, they didn't ask for this, but it became part of their life because, as I said before, it's this socially accepted legal drug that is one of the biggest, if not the biggest killer in the world of people. You know, not just to mention the medical implications, but we're talking like, you know, the domestic violence, the murders that happened, the pub fights and car park fights on a Friday and Saturday night. It's just an atrocious thing that is still masquerading as this friendly social pick-me-up. So just think twice, guys, you know. And I think the thing that I keep coming back to is when Dan, you know, they're giving him 20% odds of making it through that day, and all he's thinking about is the lager in the fridge. You know, looking at Dan and speaking to Dan now, like, of course he doesn't think that. He's not thinking about lager in his fridge. He doesn't have lager in his fridge. He just got a new fridge delivered, I believe. And there ain't ever going to be alcohol in his fridge because his mindset has shifted, and yours too can shift. But at this point, people are stuck, and I know they're stuck, and they're thinking, how do I even get past today or the next hour? But you can. I did. Dan did, you know. And as Dan said, there's not like this miracle, or not miracle, but this threshold where you drink this amount and you're going to get cirrhosis. It doesn't happen like that. Like, you know, I was drinking liter bottle plus a day at the end, and you know, Dan's drinking 32 cans of lager now. I don't know what the actual ratio is, but you know, it's a similar full-on amount of alcohol. Basically what I'm saying is we were drinking from morning till pass out in the evening, and Dan and I were both doing that. Now Dan ended up the way he did, and I'm very fortunate, and I touch wood every day that I didn't get that way. But you know, why did that happen to him and not me? I don't know. But there's people that I know who are much younger than the both of us, and she died from liver cirrhosis, you know, and she was 36, and it's what you know, how does that happen? It's worrying, it's scary, and I think people need to wisen up, and the governments need to do a lot more. So anyway, sorry, I'm getting off my high horse in my rant now, but you know, Dan is just doing amazing. He's got his beautiful wife Claire, and every time I speak to him, you know, we just have a laugh, and he's just this amazing just power of strength, and I love every bone in his body. You know, I've not known Dan a long time, but you know, we're fast becoming really good friends. So thank you again, Dan, for coming on and sharing your story. We are on it'll be the 29th of June today, guys. So we're a week and a bit into summer, and the summer solstice started on the 21st. Now, I didn't mention this last week, but I have got a little Sober Seasons group on Facebook. Just type in Sober Seasons, find it. What it is it's a group free to join. It's private, completely private. We just all support each other. My understanding is that dry January, sober October, or even dry July that we're coming up for, a month is not long enough. So when you want to get the true benefits from giving up alcohol, you have to do for 3 months, 100 days. So that's why I do it from the solstice to the equinox, and then the equinox to the solstice. So at the moment we're in sober summer. Come the 21st of September, that finishes, and we go straight into sober autumn, and then winter, and then spring again next year. It's been going for about, I think we're coming up on 3 years now, which is unbelievable. It's a small group. It's a really good support group. So if you are thinking about getting your head around getting rid of alcohol, get in the group and just join up and benefit from all the support and happiness. And like this week, I think we've had someone on 900 days. We've had a year. They're all just clocking up those days. So if you feel that you're struggling, get on there. Help is there. I'm not going to mention it too much on the podcast, but I do have now Thistle Freedom Coaching, which is my sober coaching group. So the link is in the podcast, but I want to keep that kind of separate from this, but I thought I will mention it on the podcast today. So thank you everyone for listening. As I say, if you know anyone that could benefit from this episode, then please send it their way. Just share it over. So like, subscribe and share, guys, all the way. And this season 4 is going to be phenomenal. I've got some amazing guests. I've already started with Brad and now Dan. So it's just going to go boom, boom, boom. Yeah, guys, come on. Share it about and hit the like button. Hit the 5-star review and leave me a comment, guys. This is the only way that people get to learn about what they're getting involved in. So let people know what the podcast is all about. But thank you, guys. I'm going to go back out and enjoy some more sun. But until next week, guys, stay safe, stay sober, and stay supportive. Love you all. Peace. Bye bye.